Whenever I advocate for green finance, I'm asked whether I practice what I preach as a consumer. The truth is, adopting impact-conscious, minimalist behaviors has helped me keep my sanity intact long before this pandemic. Our new reality makes most social phenomena even more pronounced, and minimalism is no exception here. With so many people struggling in this uncertainty, there is no better time for me to share some surprising money and consumer habits that help me feel better in this lockdown. You know that one garment that you refuse to get rid of, even if it's worn out and doesn't fit you anymore? For me, it was a dress shirt that I ruined back in my intern days. There was barely enough time for me to sleep back then, let alone to wash my clothes by hand. After a few machine washes, the shirt started disintegrating. Yet, its style was way too unique, so I kept it just in case. Just in case I could find or tailor-make something similar. As members of the decluttering community would rush to tell you, just in case tends to mean never. My just in case day came when many of us started working from home. Turns out the shirt looks just as impeccable on Zoom today as it once did in person. I would love to say that it makes me feel just as confident and put together as it did back then. Except it makes me feel 1,000 times better because I'm getting even more wears out of it. By the way, need I remind you that according to Rapp's estimate, extending active life of your clothing items by just 9 months reduces its carbon, water and waste footprint by 20-30% each. But it doesn't stop there. Zoom Live also gave me an opportunity to reach for makeup that I would be reluctant to use in person. Who knew your Sappa web camera could step in and give your Sappa concealer a second chance? Even if your foundation happens to be a couple of tones lighter or darker, on Zoom no one will ever notice, I promise you. Those eyeshadows that are way too dark for work? They might be your perfect nude on camera. It seems I'm not the only one. Klein predicts the worst decline in US cosmetics and toiletries market in 60 years. Notably, the expected hit is attributed to color cosmetics and fragrance categories, whereas the demand for shampoos and soaps is meant to remain steady. Using what you have is not just about saving you from an anxiety-inducing unnecessary trip to the store. In this new world, everything you bring home might end up being a contaminated surface. So even if you are neither a climate activist, a minimalist, nor a proponent of frugality movement, you still have an incentive to start using what you have. Not everyone in my own household is a die-hard eco-conscious minimalist. Which is why my pre-pandemic attempts to DIY cotton rounds from an old t-shirt used to be met with some rather googly eyes of my loved ones. As pandemic rolled in and we started limiting what we bring into our homes, a batch of DIY cotton rounds has finally become our bathroom staple. They are not just much cuter than their store-bought version. Unlike my previously mentioned dress shirt, they also easily endure countless cycles of washing machine, hot water and ironing. That is, if you want to get extra serious about disinfecting them. In addition to not bringing a potentially contaminated surface into your house, you won't set yourself back quite a few pounds a month, which might prove handy as many households are looking to cut their budgets in these uncertain times. You won't set our planet quite a few liters of water back either. According to WWF, it takes 20 liters of water to produce just a kilo of cotton. These considerations might prove particularly important when it comes to cotton products, as changing WTO guidelines will inevitably continue to drive demand for cotton masks in coming months. In fact, the demand for masks has already been changing cotton production in countries like Kenya. Naturally, it isn't just about cotton rounds. Quite a few light bulbs couldn't handle us being at home all day long and stopped working. Back in pre-pandemic times, the first instinct would be to go to the store and buy a replacement. Current reality dictates that even something ordered online can lead to an unrequited contact with a mailwoman. Which is why I checked every tentative shelf and storage box before making a purchase. chances are you don't even realize what you have stored in the back of your closet. Read it to realize you were probably preparing for a lockdown all along. You just forgot to send yourself a meme about it. Such in-house raids can become a source of creativity and entertainment. Trust me, your pantry hides some forgotten spices or grains you would absolutely love rediscovering. Using up what you have surprisingly leads to getting more breathing space. When confusing the first symptoms of an infection with an allergy is a real possibility, you don't want anything to be sitting on your shelves collecting dust, especially when most of us try to clean and dust every item in the house. Some of the members of my household used to insist on having multiples of every toiletry. Our local store only delivers bare supermarket essentials now, and their offers are limited to just a couple of brands. This was a natural incentive to use up some face washes and deodorants that were not getting used in regular times. As these products got emptied out, I was able to remove a few baskets and repurpose them as shelves for quarantine food. Minimalists love sharing how decluttering physical items helps them declutter their minds. I'm not just a minimalist, I'm also an eco-conscious consumer. I know that up to 84% of the clothes you donate still ends up on a landfill. So I can never tell you that decluttering for the sheer sake of it feels good. Using your possessions until you can no longer use them, upcycling what you can, and decluttering the rest is another story. It does feel better to live in a more organized space, not clogging landfills and stretching your money further at the same time. I frequently come across stereotypes on the opposite sides of the spectrum. People tend to perceive minimalism as a cheap habit and eco-conscious behavior as an extremely expensive habit to have. Neither is strictly speaking true. But this pandemic has had some interesting effect on my spending preferences. I still sported my 2013 iPhone just a couple of months ago. Not that I didn't need a new phone. It's just that buying a gadget for a grant has consistently proven not to be my priority. You see, when people invite you to speak at some conference, they usually cover your expenses for a short stay. That is where eco-conscious choices end up costing me the most. To justify flying, I typically extend my stays on my own dime, as I take care of other commitments on location. These business trip extensions felt like wiser spending choices at the time, which is why I had to rely on the mercy of a group photographer even when I met Angela Merkel, or a panel to discussion with an Emmy-nominated Philip Cousteau Jr. As most of the world went into the lockdown and conferences moved online, it evaporated the need for any kind of travel expenses on my end. This time, getting a reliable phone with a good battery and decent video capabilities emerged as a clear priority instead. It made me relearn another valuable lesson. A simpler, minimalist, and conscious life doesn't have to equate to asceticism. Some physical items can help you have more fulfilling experiences and even help you cut carbon footprint associated with those experiences. Everything depends on the context. It is okay to enjoy a trip or a purchase wherever it's truly appropriate.